The anime begins by showing 4 high school girls who are on a school trip. On their way home, their plane crashes, leaving the 4 of them stranded on a deserted island. The 4 girls are Homari Onishima, Asuka Suzumori, Mutsua Matani, and Shion Kujo. When they finally woke up after a long period of unconsciousness, they began to introduce themselves. Asuka, who is a cheerful girl, tells her friends that she is a member of the basketball and track clubs. After that, Shion introduced herself and told her friends that she has a hobby of playing the piano and has a pet dog named Arnold. Mutshu, who is a shy girl, then introduces herself and says that she is quite good at cooking and was once named the smartest student in school. Homari was the last to introduce herself and told her friends that she didn't have the abilities they had, nor any other interesting talents. Even so, she said that being in the wild like this was not her first time. Sometime before, when they were still on the plane's wreckage floating in the middle of the sea, Homari dreamed of a moment of togetherness with her father when they went on an adventure in the wild. Homari finally woke up and realized that she shouldn't be dehydrated, so she caught a fish and used the method her father had taught her to drink the fish's blood instead of fluids. Shion actually also felt very thirsty, but she was reluctant to drink the blood of fish, and it was also impossible for her to drink the salty seawater. Therefore, Homari then told Shion to drink her urine. Due to a threat from a shark, Homari and her friends rushed to a nearby island. Arriving at the deserted island, they immediately find out that the island is uninhabited, so they are faced with a situation of survival in the wild. Homari and Asuka decided to explore the island to get a source of clean water so they wouldn't get dehydrated. At the same time, Shion chose to accompany Mutshu, who looked weak due to symptoms of dehydration. Even though they had walked quite a distance to the island's center, Homari and Asuka had yet to find a clean water source or something to eat. Asuka, who was already very tired, started to feel dizzy due to symptoms of dehydration, so Homari rushed to help her by stuffing a handful of soil into her socks, trying to squeeze out the water contained in the soil and give it to Asuka. Even though it was only a few drops of water, Asuka was grateful that she wasn't dehydrated. On the other hand, Shion, who found a coconut while walking on the beach, seemed so happy that she wished she could drink or eat coconut water. However, Shion became very disappointed when she split the coconut because she did not find anything inside. Shion lay limp and could only surrender to her fate of being stranded on a deserted island without clean water and no food. Not long after that, it rained quite heavily, so they could collect rainwater as a source of clean drinking water. At least they won't be thirsty for a while. Homari and Asuka are finally reunited with Shion and Mutshu, where Homari then tells about 3 important rules for survival in the wild. First, they must maintain their body temperature because humans will die in 3 hours if they cannot maintain their body temperature. Second, Homari reminded her friends about the importance of paying attention to fluid intake because humans will die in 3 days if they are dehydrated. After the first and second things were done, they had to find something to eat because humans would die in 3 weeks without food. Therefore, the first step they had to take on the deserted island was to find shelter to maintain their body temperature. However, even though Homari had explained the important rules of survival, Shion and the others were more concerned with food because they were already hungry, so they chose to look for anything to eat. On the next day, the rescue team had not yet arrived to save them from the desert island, so Homari decided to make a shelter from the objects around her. On the other hand, Asuka started to complain about the food, as they hadn't eaten anything filling since they were stranded on the island. Upon hearing that, Homari then asked Asuka to find something to eat. In the forest, Asuka found a wild tuber and insisted on eating it. But Homari immediately forbade it because she had never seen the plant, so she couldn't tell whether it was poisonous or not. To find out whether the tubers were poisonous or not, they did a test and finally found out that the tubers were not fit to eat. Unable to hold back her hunger, Asuka was forced to eat insects like Homari did. After that, Shion asked Homari to give her a clean shower so she could take a bath. Since cleanliness and survival are related, Homari agrees to Shion's request and makes a clean shower so they can all clean up. After bathing, Homari and Mutshu decided to collect the clams and cook them so they could be eaten. With her cooking skills, Mutshu then cooked the shells and made them a delicious dish for everyone to eat. After enjoying Mutshu's delicious seafood, Homari then plans to catch wild animals such as squirrels for food. Homari told her friends that she found squirrel tracks on the beach. Since squirrels were not hairy and had soft flesh, Homari felt confident that they could easily cook squirrel meat. But before that, they had to set a trap to catch the squirrel. Homari then explained the various traps to catch animals in the wild, as taught by her father. However, when Homari was very excited to explain that, Shion and the others looked scared and fell silent while listening to her talk. After that, Homari and her friends then set up a trap with the objects they found on the beach and around them. While gathering tree branches, Asuka stumbled across a frog that was quite large. Homari asked Asuka to catch the frog because it could be used as food. Asuka managed to catch the frog and kill it, but she couldn't bear to kill it, so she let it go and told Homari that she accidentally let the frog escape. When she was about to set a trap in the forest, Homari found rabbit droppings, so she decided to set a snare trap to catch a rabbit that was bigger than a squirrel. After setting traps in the forest, Homari and Asuka decided to dive to the bottom of the sea to catch edible sea animals. Unable to catch large fish or shellfish, Homari was forced to bring starfish trapped in the rocks to be used as food. At first, Xian seemed so excited that she thought Homari had caught the fish, but her reaction immediately changed when she discovered that Homari had brought starfish for lunch. Asuka then told Xian that Homari had gone to great lengths to catch the starfish, so Xian finally stopped complaining and thanked Homari. The next day, Homari and her friends then entered the forest to check the traps they had set the previous day. However, they found nothing there, and the trap was still neatly set. Homari and her friends then rushed back to the beach after seeing a puff of white smoke, thinking the rescue team had arrived on the island. However, when she arrived at the beach, the puff of smoke turned out to be from Xian, who was trying to send a signal for help because she saw a ship from a distance. After realizing she might just be hallucinating, Xian burst into tears and apologized to her friends. To comfort Xian, who seems very frustrated with the situation they are currently in, Homari then invites her to hunt for fish trapped in the sand due to receding sea water. After collecting some fish, they immediately returned to the camp and grilled the fish for dinner. On the next day, Asuka and Muchu then went to the forest to check the traps set by Homari. Surprisingly, the trap worked, and they caught a rabbit. Asuka and Muchu rushed back to the camp with the rabbit. After making a fairly sharp knife from the rocks, Muchu volunteered to slaughter and skin the rabbit so they could preserve the meat and cook it properly. Xian then suggested they cook the rabbit meat into the French cuisine she had eaten at a restaurant. Even though it sounded impossible, Muchu and Homari tried to make the dish with simple cooking utensils and ingredients until they finally managed to serve the French cuisine as Xian wanted. A few days later, Xian and her friends almost felt hopeless because the rescue team did not come to save them. Knowing that winter will soon be approaching, Homari decides to explore the island in search of a better shelter so that they can survive until help arrives. Homari then invites Muchu to accompany her to explore the island, while Xian and Asuka will stay at their camp near the beach in case help arrives. After exploring the island along the coastline, Homari and Muchu finally found a pier, indicating that the island might be inhabited. However, Homari explained that the pier seemed to have been abandoned for a long time, so it was very unlikely that the island was still inhabited. That night, when they were camping, Muchu then asked Homari why she had invited her to explore the island. Homari said that Muchu always thinks before she acts, and she can also easily adapt to the situation they are currently in, so Homari also thinks that Muchu is the right person to accompany her to explore the island. Muchu is also quite clever, so Homari can ask for advice on making the right move because she usually always acts on her instincts. The next day, Homari and her friends returned to explore the island, but this time with a certain pattern, where each of them would explore the island alone and return to the designated gathering place. Homari and Muchu found nothing in their exploration this time. In contrast, Asuka found a plant that usually grows in her hometown, which indicates that the island may still be in Japanese territory. Not long after, Xian arrived and told her friends that she had found the ruins of the building. Homari hoped that the ruins could be used as a place to stay for a while. However, after seeing its dilapidated condition, Homari became disappointed and told her friends that they had to find another place that was more suitable for shelter. But then, Homari got excited again when she found lawn shears and some other tools that were still usable. When she was about to head back to the campsite, she saw a puff of white smoke coming from the beach. They rushed there and found the white smoke that turned out to be steam from a hot spring. After ensuring that the hot spring pool was safe enough, Homari and her friends decided to soak in hot water while enjoying the view of the night sky full of stars. Homari, who has enough knowledge about constellations, then told her friends that they are currently in the northern part of the Earth if they look at the location of the constellations in the sky. Because the night was getting late, they were swept away by the tidal wave of seawater until they returned to the mainland. The next day, before returning to camp, Homari told her friends that she wanted to retrieve some rope from the bottom of the ravine. Before plunging into the canyon, she ensured its depth first because if it was too shallow, it would be impossible for her to jump into it. After ensuring the canyon was safe enough, she plunged there to take the rope. Sometime later, when they were playing on the beach, Asuka was suddenly stung by a jellyfish and panicked her friends, except for Homari, who remained calm and tried to treat Asuka. Having had survival training with her father as a child, Hon-ma-ri has a bevy of knowledge on how to survive in critical conditions, so she takes the role of the leader among the girls and teaches them how to survive on the island. Realizing that continuous exposure to the sun can lower the immune system, Hon-ma-ri tries various sunblock alternatives made from squid ink, liver, and seaweed to protect them from UV rays. Having enough knowledge to survive in the wild, she can also help her friends to deal with every critical situation they experience while in the wild. One day, Hon-ma-ri and her friends found a pile of worn bamboo and then decided to build a roof that they could use to shelter from the rain and the sun. After that, Xian, who was relaxing, was surprised by the appearance of a bee. Knowing that the beehive might not be far from the campsite, Hon-ma-ri and her friends decided to seek a beehive to get honey. They finally found the beehive and devised a plan so they could retrieve the honey without being stung by the bees. After distracting the bees with smoke, Hon-ma-ri carefully took the honey from the beehive. The next day, Hon-ma-ri and Asuka prepared to catch fish in the sea. Because Xian can't swim, Hon-ma-ri asked Xian to catch fish on the beach by riding a raft made of bamboo. However, Xian was carried away by the current to the middle of the sea, and Hon-ma-ri lost track of her. Asuka and Mu-chu, who had just returned after gathering firewood, became extremely panicked when Hon-ma-ri told them that Xian had been swept away and disappeared. Hon-ma-ri, who was determined to catch up with Xian, then asked Asuka and Mu-chu for help to make a raft from the remaining bamboo. Afterward, Hon-ma-ri, who was already quite far from the beach, still couldn't find Xian's whereabouts because her visibility was very limited. Hon-ma-ri was reminded of her father's advice to expand view and immediately put it into practice until she finally found an island in the middle of the sea. Meanwhile, Xian, who was stranded on the island, began feeling hopeless after finding out that there was nothing on the island but rocks. She finally could only surrender to the situation she was in. At the same time, Hon-ma-ri arrived there, and Xian seemed so happy because she was finally able to meet her friend again. However, despite having managed to find Xian, Hon-ma-ri was immediately faced with a critical situation because she did not bring drinking water, so she and Xian were threatened with dehydration. As Hon-ma-ri and Xian start to suffer from dehydration on their way back to the island, they are forced to take drastic measures to replenish their moisture. In the end, Hon-ma-ri and Xian finally made it back to the deserted island and reunited with Asuka and Mu-chu, who had already prepared a delicious dinner for them. The anime series ends with Hon-ma-ri and her friends who continue their life surviving on the island, while Hon-ma-ri's father begins searching for her. The moral that can be learned from this anime is survivors aren't always the strongest because sometimes they're the smartest, but more often simply the luckiest. Because luck is a very thin wire between survival and disaster, and not many people can keep their balance on it.